If there's one constant in 2019, it's that everything is bound to suck. Remember when Game of Thrones was widely considered to be the greatest show in history? Well, that's over now. Congrats, Breaking Bad, you're back on top. Walter White never would have put up with this crap. It's astounding to think about how far this show has fallen. Some would say starting in season 7, but no, season 8 was something special. Most fans, and many now former fans of Game of Thrones, are absolutely astounded about what they witnessed over the past 6 weeks, or really the past 4. Over the past 4 episodes, we were exposed to dark, shaky cam, a very questionable conclusion to the Night King storyline getting killed by flying out of nowhere Arya, Starbucks cup product placements, puppies being sad and ignored, dragons being shot out of the sky, man that was a lucky shot, characters turning on a dime and going batshit crazy, rulers that were more weepy than imposing with ridiculous death scenes, characters being killed off and then seemingly forgotten, everyone appearing to be out of character, and frankly stupid conclusions. This is of course a very cursory overview of the many problems with this season. My question is, how did what many thought was the greatest show in history degenerate into a total exploding shitfest at the very end? Well, firstly, there's the writers, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. When they had George R.R. Martin's material to work with, and they actually gave a crap, the show was almost perfect. But then as soon as they ran out of material, the show started to fall off a cliff, and rather than fix things, they decided to help it die and kicked it off the cliff. If they weren't able to come up with a satisfying conclusion, then there are many ways they could have remedied this. Anybody that isn't a complete idiot would have said, I don't know how to end this. Maybe I should find somebody that is able to end it and hand the show over to them. If it was about money, you two could have stayed on as executive producers and just let somebody else do the writing. But no, you had to write those last 4 abortions yourselves, didn't you? You could have walked away, but I guess ego was more important. And now Winter is Coming has become a punchline and will go down in history along with Happy Days Jump the Shark. And why did the show have to end at this point anyway? It's not that the ideas were terrible in theory, but they needed at least another 4 seasons to flesh them out, not 4 episodes, you idiots. You wanted to get this done as fast as possible, like a college student that tries hard all semester and then decides to try crack for the first time the morning of the exam. And why were you so eager to get this done with? Well, that's when things get even more irritating. We can't help but laugh in frustration. In case you didn't think Star Wars was already in a bad enough place, well, it's about to get worse. Yep, these 2 morons that decided to end Game of Thrones by throwing shit at a wall to see what sticks have been handed a Star Wars trilogy. Hell, Kathleen Kennedy, just bring in Rian Johnson as a 3rd co-writer. I mean, things really couldn't get much worse at this point. I know what you're thinking. Maybe Disney will see the disaster that was the ending of Game of Thrones and rethink their decision. Really, you think the company that gave us The Last Jedi, Solo, and then decided to continue with the story that nobody cares about, and then gave Kathleen Kennedy a new contract, or the company that wants to go woke with the MCU gives 2 shits? I'm guessing their only concern is that Game of Thrones didn't get woke enough in the end. They couldn't care less that it was creatively broke. Speaking of woke, this also proved how clueless and biased the mainstream media is. When something is woke and terrible, they go after fans like rabid shit-eating monkeys. But when something is not woke, but still terrible, they join the fans in denouncing it. Funny that, but I would say that the recent woke trend that has infested everything since the abortion known as Ghostbusters 2016 does play a role here, but not in the way you might think. Because all the talentless hacks in the entertainment industry decided to focus on outwoking each other, the art of storytelling went to hell. The story was no longer the focus, and that's how everything we once loved ended up dying a terrible death, and are now just walking virtue-signaling corpses of their former selves. And the corpses are really starting to smell bad. Writing became lazy. While some could argue that maybe there was some wokeness in the latter Game of Thrones, I'd say the show wasn't even that self-aware in the end. Some cast members couldn't keep themselves from laughing at the absurdity that was the clusterfuck that was the end of Game of Thrones. We've all seen the Emilia Clarke best season ever video, while others have decided to permanently damage their acting careers. Apparently, Kit Harington has decided that Game of Thrones critics can go fuck themselves. While this may have been directed primarily at the scum of the earth critics on garbage like Rotten Tomatoes, the most vocal critics have been the fans. Good luck, Kit. I'm sure this is going to end well for you. I'm sure everyone secretly loved this season, and it was just bots that signed that petition. Speaking of that petition, it seems that other actors may have ended their careers by criticizing that. Well, if they had any careers beyond Game of Thrones to begin with. According to Sophie Turner, probably the most unremarkable thing about Game of Thrones prior to Season 8, the petition to remake Game of Thrones' final season is disrespectful. She says, all of these petitions and things like that, I think it's disrespectful to the crew, and the writers, and the filmmakers, who have worked tirelessly over 10 years, and for 11 months shooting the last season. So many people worked so hard, and for people to just rubbish it because it's not what they want to see, it's just disrespectful. They want to see the season remade because they do have respect for the first 7, well, maybe 6 seasons, you idiot. Moreover, people are not attacking the actors, nor are they attacking anybody involved in the visual creation of the show, which, aside from episode 3 and a coffee cup, was still first rate. They are pissed at Benioff and Weiss because they were unable to admit their own faults as writers when left to their own devices. They were not willing to walk away and let somebody else take over because of their egos. They disrespected the fans because it's clear that they did not give 2 shits about Season 8. They had 2 years, and this is what they gave us. Oh, Sophie, this is not going to end well for you, dear. It's not like things weren't bad enough for you already. I mean, that Dark Phoenix disaster is coming, whether you like it or not. The ending of Game of Thrones is depressing as hell, and just reminds us that everything has now turned to complete shit. The time when quality entertainment still existed is now 5 or so years in the past. Perhaps it's time for the entertainment industry as we know it to die, and make way for something else, because things are only going to get worse from here. And that's it for today. Don't forget to subscribe, and make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube is deleting subscribers, and follow me on Twitter. And as always, everyone, thank you for watching, and have a great day.